Do you have drawers that look like this? Just, you know, tools thrown in there, stuff. You don't even know what's in there. It all gets buried. And you organize it, and so you can see everything, but every time you open and close the doors, things get jumbled around. And sometimes, you know, it just gets very frustrating when you're trying to work on something. And if you're anything like me, I get real annoyed when it takes me a half an hour to find a tool to do a 10-minute job. So I've come up with some drawer storage that I hope some of you will find helpful. Hey everybody, if you're like me and you're working in your shop, you know how important it is to have all your tools right in one place so you know where they are. You can grab them quick, and when you're done you can put them away. Sometimes that's not an easy thing to achieve. As you can see, I've got some drawers here, and I used to keep all my tools in these drawers, but opening and closing the drawers, you know, made it so they all got shuffled around, and I ended up having to go through there and sort through stuff and try to find things. And what I did was I just made this drawer organizer. As you can see, I've got a place for the tools that I keep in this drawer, and this one just slides back and forth. And you can lift that right out if you want to. But this keeps everything in my drawer from getting all messed up. And also I know exactly what's in here at a glance. And I know this tool is missing. That's a bevel square. Same as this one here. It's a little different. It's a little more modern, but I know where it is. It's at a project that I'm working on off location. But I can look in this drawer and I can see that it's gone, and that jogs my memory that it's being used somewhere else. So I don't waste time shuffling through these drawers, only to remember after a half an hour that I've got it somewhere else. And I really like this system. It wasn't difficult to make. Went pretty quick. I think the most time spent was laying everything out, deciding just what I wanted to put in this drawer and where I wanted to put it. I would like to do that again in this next drawer over. This drawer is a mess. You know, see, I don't know what's in here. I've got to take everything out. This is a tool roll that's not being used at the time. Used mask, rubber bands, some matches, more rubber bands, parts for a bench. These are jigs I've got for setting up my planer. This is a pattern for cutting dovetails. An oddball wrench, eyeballs for when I make, you know, do carvings that need eyes. That's my first aid kit. My chisels. They're just thrown in the drawer, but they are in cases to protect, you know, the sharp end. Yeah, Sharpie. There's a lot of junk in here. Tools that shouldn't be here. Device grips. Threaded inserts. You know, just kind of odds and ends. I'm gonna do something with this drawer similar to the first drawer. Like I said, the hardest part is deciding just what I want to put in here, how I want to organize it. Compass. And I'll probably go through these other drawers, find out what else is hiding in here that I can put in here. That'll be right at my fingertips when I need it. Well, this is how I've decided to organize the bottom layer of this drawer. This is a flush cut saw for cutting off dowels and such. I have two Dozukis. This one here is an older one. It has some broken teeth in the blade. This is a new one with a nice, perfectly sharp blade with no damaged teeth. I like to keep two of these because this Dozuki here I use, you know, when there's a possibility that I'm going through something that might chip a tooth. And I can have a saw that I'm not overly concerned about damaging. And I use this one here when I really want to make a fine cut. And it needs to be perfect, and I don't want any chipped teeth. These blades are replaceable. They just pop out real easy. So it's easy to have, you know, a bang around one and a real nice one. And I have some bench dogs in here. I only have 3 of them right now because one is missing. But that's not a problem because I don't use these, because these are for a future bench that I'm building. And I also have what they call a muzzle here. This goes over the flat spot, so if you need to clamp something and you don't want the metal to damage it. So I'm going to leave another spot for the 4th one. I don't think it's going to turn up. I think it walked away on me. So if it doesn't, by the time I'm ready to use those, I may have to purchase another pair. But so I'll have a spot for it anyways. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut a piece of plywood out that fits inside of this drawer. Then I'll lay these tools back in the way I have them. I'll trace around them and cut that out on the bandsaw. And for my top piece, I'm just going to put a couple pieces of wood on each end, on the back of the drawer and the front, that it can slide to side on. But the plywood that I'm putting in, that's the only thing that actually holds it in place, are the slides for the upper drawer. That way there, if things change and I need to reorganize this drawer, just a couple of screws and I can pull the whole thing out and just cut a new piece of plywood and put it back in, and I'm all set to go. Now when I cut this piece of plywood out, I cut it out a little small so that if I ever decide to remove this in the future, it doesn't create like a vacuum and make it really difficult to take it out. You can see I've drilled a series of holes in this where I need to cut out for the different tools. You could drill, you know, more holes if you wanted and use a scroll saw to cut this out. It's 1/2 inch thick, so it's kind of heavy for a scroll saw. I'm not going to bother with that for this. I'm just going to cut in, and I'll do it with the bandsaw. Simply because I don't really need the strength since it's laying in the bottom of a drawer, and the bandsaw will make this a lot faster. Oh, now all I got to do is I'm going to turn this over. I'm going to go over this with a little bit of sandpaper, just take the fuzzies off where I sawed. And then I'm going to put it in the drawer. I also went over this with some sandpaper, enough to just to knock the pencil lines off that I used to cut out the shapes. And I'm just going to give it a quick coat of linseed oil here. This is probably optional. I don't really think you have to put the oil on it, but I like to do it just because it kind of brings out the grain of the wood. Once I get the drawer bottom in, all I need to do is add a cleat like this in the front and the back of the drawer, and the bottom is all set. Now, to make the top, basically it's just a box that's half as wide as the drawer. I've cut the bottom out, and I leave it a little small, you can see. Probably about a 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch is fine. That way there it slides fairly easy. If you leave it too big, it'll get cockeyed and it'll stick. If you make it too tight, obviously it's just going to be, you know, too tight. So just a little bit is fine. And nothing fancy here either. I'm just going to rip some sides, and I want it to be flush with the top of the drawer. I've got my two side pieces cut, and I also went around the perimeter and I drilled a series of holes and I countersunk those holes. Countersinking is really quite important here because this is the bottom. It's really important here. You don't want your screws to be dragging on your drawer slide, so it's important to countersink those so you can get it flush. What I'm going to do is put these on here, and I'm going to hold them with a clamp, and then I'm going to go around with a drill and a bit, and I'm going to drill pilot holes. Now once the drawer has been fully assembled, I can test fit it and make sure that it's going to work alright. Seems to be fine. Now we can disassemble it, sand it all. You can put some glue where it goes back together, and reassemble it with the screws. There's no need to clamp this up. The screws act as clamps and they'll hold it till the glue dries just fine. Well, so there we are. And this does come right out. If you needed to take it, to where you're working. You could also put a divider in here with a little handle on it. That'd be handy. I suppose, you know, if you had a lot of small tools that you wanted to keep track of, you could do the same thing in this top drawer like we did on the bottom one. You could put another false bottom in with little places for all your tools up on the top as well. Any disadvantages to this system? Yes. If your goal is to stuff as much stuff as you can get into your drawer, well, this is probably not the system for you. But if you want to have your tools organized, easy to get, so you can work in an efficient manner, then this is the way to go. That's, as far as I'm concerned, that's my opinion on it. So I hope everybody enjoyed this video, and I hope you found it helpful, and thanks for watching.